Magneto, by order of the UN Commission on Superhuman Activities, I hereby place you under arrest.
Hey there guys, this is Richard, your host, with another marvelous video. Episode 5 of X-Men 97 took things to a whole new level, and now we can be sure that the creators won't hold back on some dark stuff. The fact that the episode features a lot of mutant deaths only means it might be a significant part of the series' future. There's no clear idea regarding who was responsible for the attack at Genosha. But what if we tell you there's a clear chance that the person responsible for this was right there all along? What if Valerie Cooper was responsible for it? And what if she is Mystique? Let's dive right into this theory and check if it might actually be true. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The backstory of Valerie Cooper. Valerie Cooper has played a significant role in the operations that involved overseeing the growing population of mutants in the nation. It might seem like she's a villain, but there are more layers to her character as she perceives the rising number of mutants differently. Since this increase, the private and government industries have grown interested in exploiting these beings for their own benefit. To prevent being in danger, Cooper wanted the United States government to deal with them. Fearing that other countries might do it first, she also demanded that the US have a team of mutants who could be effective core. The most active work in this aspect from Valerie Cooper was seen in the Uncanny X-Men number 127 issue, Sanctions. During a meeting amongst the representatives of Washington's leading military and civilian security departments, the leaders talked about the threat that the mutants pose to the world, particularly their nation. This inference was based on a recent case wherein Magneto had threatened across the globe to disarm all nuclear weaponry or face destruction with him. He'd made his first move to prove his point by destroying a Soviet city. Even though there had been no civilian casualties, the idea that this could be done required that they be prepared for any such events in the future. Dr. Valerie Cooper pointed out that concern regarding mutants has shifted from the idea of them being the dominant gene shortly to the fact that peace between mutants and humans no longer exists regarding their nation. There's been a rise in these beings worldwide in different countries, which only proved to be a concern since these nations could use the mutants for their own benefit. But Garrick presented her with a counter-argument regarding how this is the very thing that Magneto had stated would happen, along with the humans killing the mutants in the future. Interesting arc from the X-Men universe. Apart from leading the plans to ally with the X-Men to have a team of mutants under their wings, she also managed to get Forge to work to utilize the mutant powers against them. He worked on various projects, even the one involving a means to detect mutations. However, her involvement in getting a team of mutants working for the government would see support from the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. In Uncanny X-Men number 199, Born Again, Mystique wanted to extend her group's services to Valerie to change their reputation. But to check whether they could do the deed, Valerie Cooper wanted Mystique and her Freedom Force to capture Magneto. Mystique faces Magneto during a social event that he's attending and asks him to account for his involvement in various past terrorist activities. But Magneto doesn't take it in quickly, only prompting the Freedom Force to use its powers to capture him. As he tries to fight them off, the X-Men arrive at the situation and try to stop the Freedom Force. But then Mystique reveals the true purpose of the Freedom Force and their orders regarding capturing Magneto, which finally prompts Magneto to surrender, as this could be the only way for him to reform, which is by standing trial. But Magneto's trial causes quite an uproar across the world, with random acts of violence indicating demands for Magneto to be freed. In the next issue, we see the attacks being blamed on the X-Men, while the team of heroes tries to investigate the real people behind these attacks. During Magneto's trial, the Soviet admiral who had fired his nukes at Magneto's island testified against him. The X-Men fight various groups, causing harm worldwide, only to realize that these are mere diversions as the attack strikes the courtroom. Charles manages to save everyone from this attack but suffers from a heart attack right there. Before being taken by Lilandra and Corsair to be saved, Xavier makes Magneto fulfill his dream and look after the school in his absence. Now that we have some idea of Valerie Cooper's character and how she formed the Freedom Force in the comic books using her associations with Mystique, let's jump right into the latest events in X-Men 97.
Place you under arrest for crimes against humanity. You will stand trial at the UN
Her role in the X-Men 97. X-Men 97 sees Valerie Cooper in a similar role. She seems to have a special bond with the X-Men while working for the government. Her friendship with Charles Xavier explains her unique bond with the X-Men, and she also makes clear that the professor's death has impacted this bond. When Magneto arrives at the Institute to fulfill Xavier's testament, it appears to be quite a shock to both the X-Men and Valerie Cooper. The United Nations tasks Valerie with capturing Magneto to make him stand trial for his criminal acts in the past. Since he has a promise to keep and it involves reforms, Magneto surrenders and is taken for trial. during which a variety of events takes place that are very similar to the comic book's premise. The Friends of Humanity attacked the UN building where the trials were taking place to kill everyone involved. During one of these attacks, Storm is injured quite seriously. Magneto comes into action to save everyone in the courtroom. Realizing that Magneto has truly changed his ways, Valerie Cooper pardons the mutant for his past acts of violence so that he can lead the X-Men. Later, we find that the gun used on Storm to kill her powers was built by Forge, whom we all know to be associated with Valerie Cooper in the comic books.
Yeah, I hear it's called the future.
Why is Miss Cooper keeping tabs on Rogue? The latest episode of X-Men 97 saw one of the darkest moments for the mutants with the massacre at Genosha, with no confirmed number of mutants killed. Madeline, Jean's clone, was made aware of these events, but not with too much success, by Cable, who arrived from the future just to convey the upcoming danger. The Sentinel attack leads to the loss of numerous lives, including those of Shaw, Gambit, Banshee, and Moira McTaggart. The fact that Gambit dies after his final attack on the Sentinels becomes a lot more tragic, considering the recent developments in his relationship with Rogue. The episode started with the UN recognizing Genosha as a mutant nation where mutants can reside in peace. Magneto goes along with Gambit and Rogue to Genosha as goodwill ambassadors. They're all surprised to see the change in the city and how it's become an ideal representation of what they wanted Genosha to be. The interim council of this nation includes Madeline Pryor herself, who was sought out after Genosha's governing body needed an X-Men. Later, during a meeting with Magneto, the interim council advocated for Magneto to be the ruler of the country. Still, Magneto doesn't give in right away and asks for Rogue to be allowed to be by his side as the ruling body. When Magneto presents Rogue with his decision, she doesn't give in to it right away and instead goes to tell Gambit about her past relationship with Magneto. She tells him that because of her powers, she can't touch anyone except for Magneto, and this only further leads to the unique bond she shares with him. Upset with this information, Gambit asks Rogue to leave and join Magneto in his plans. During the gala, Rogue turns down Magneto, but a few minutes before this, Shaw was telling Valerie about their plans regarding Magneto being their leader. He also reveals that Rogue will be by his side, and just then, Valerie asks him, "What did she say?" in quite a concerning tone. Rogue's decision will have a massive impact on how things turn out since it will only strengthen Magneto's plans to become the leader of Genosha. But other than that, one must remember that if Magneto returns to his earlier persona, it'll sabotage Rogue's repudiation too. It'd make Rogue another of the high-priority concerns for the UN, someone Valerie might have to consider when going against the X-Men for her nation's security. Is she Mystique? There have been quite a significant number of developments in X-Men 97 in just a few episodes, indicating no slowing down in the series' tone. With the wide variety of characters and twists at every point, it won't be surprising to see a significant theory come true regarding Valerie Cooper's character. What if Valerie Cooper has been Mystique all along? This theory could explain her concern for Rogue and her decision. Earlier in the series, during Magneto's trial, we witnessed another major event in parallel, Nathan Summers' birth. But there's significance to the dialogue in the editing here because right during Magneto's monologue, Charles Xavier entrusted me with his dream, and it doesn't ask you to love or embrace my kind as your own. The shot cuts from Rogue's face to Valerie's as she has some guilt in her face. Of course, this guilt could be because Magneto didn't go through with his way of dealing with the attack on Storm. Instead, he saved everyone even after being held guilty by her. But the exact line and the fact that Mystique is Rogue's mother makes sense. Fans have been wondering how Valerie was present at Genosha. This might be an indication regarding her involvement with the massacre, and it would make sense if she were actually Mystique. Mystique has a history of being ruthless, and it won't be surprising if this is how she deals with the concept of Genosha. With the series having some hardcore references to the comic book issues we discussed earlier, it won't be surprising to see some things being put together. The surrender and the trial of Magneto have some fascinating parallels between them. Considering Mystique was involved with Valerie for her plans against Magneto, it won't be surprising to see that Mystique has been going around disguised as Valerie to conduct the actions from her end that we've seen so far. Mystique's involvement during the massacre of Genosha could also be seen from the fact that Cable came to warn Madeline before her death, and he said he's coming. In this case, he could be Apocalypse, who has used Mystique before, and this time, Mystique might have helped him attack Genosha, since Genosha was the concept that Apocalypse would have hated for the mutants to reduce to. The last time that Mystique was seen in the original series, she was involved with Apocalypse and kidnapped Psylocke and Xavier for him. But she later betrayed him, and if it's true that she was working for him again in X-Men 97, it'd make sense that Apocalypse betrayed her and launched an early attack on Genosha before Mystique could save Rogue and Nightcrawler. Both Rogue and Nightcrawler thought she died during Beyond Good and Evil, but Mystique had survived and walked away from her children as she cried. With the dark tone that the animated series is going for, it won't be surprising to see them bring Mystique as a villain like this, and that it'd be part of the exciting way details are spilled throughout the series. We're very much aware of Valerie's true intentions and why she's interested in being involved with the X-Men. Destroying Genosha at the very first chance they got would be one of their biggest goals in eliminating the mutant threat, and Valerie would have to be working on this project. Since both Mystique and Valerie's goals almost align, it won't be surprising to see that the creators put them together, with one disguising as the other. Making the Genosha massacre worthy and consequential in this series would require a proper explanation regarding its involvement. Among the various options, Mystique's return as the villain, now that the X-Men must face Magneto's change of heart and dedication to Xavier, would make sense.
The images you're about to see may be disturbing.
Marvelous verdicts. The creators of X-Men 97 seem ready to bring the darkest stories from the X-Men comics to the screen. We just witnessed an episode that featured various events taking place simultaneously, involving Magneto's trial, Storm losing her powers, and Jean and Scott having their baby. Last but not least, it shocked Jean's clone, dropping at the gates only to reveal a massive storyline featuring how Mr. Sinister cloned Jean to get hold of Nathan Summers, who appeared in one of the show's latest episodes. Yeah, that's a lot, but this all happened in the past 3 or 4 episodes only. Valerie Cooper's coming out as Mystique won't be that surprising if things turn out that way. Remember Victoria Newman from The Boys and how it turned out that she was the mutant blowing everyone's minds all along? Yep, Mystique coming out would blow out Mutiny, if not the X-Men's.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.